you go and check whether they actually issued it or not. And from there, you can be able to detect whether it's actually, a cyber cafe or fool.
In this video, we'll be talking about one common misconception a lot of people have about the real estate market. And today we'll be talking about property documentation. A lot of people don't understand how property documentation works, especially in Lagos, Nigeria, or in Nigeria in general. They want to know more about this. Well, stay tuned to the end of this video as you'll be getting a lot of information about property documentations in Lagos, Nigeria. My name is Bankole Vindicate. I'm an expert in the real estate investment industry, as well as the host of Real Estate Gist with Banks the Realtor. And today I have an important guest. He's a real estate expert and as well a property lawyer. Well, I think he should introduce himself.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome, sir.
My name is Samuel Tiamiyu. I'm popularly known as the first-class property lawyer. And of course, stay tuned to the end because you'll be getting the best from this video.
Thank you very much. Okay, we got a few questions here. Would appreciate if you can shed more light on.
Bring it on.
We have 6 questions here. The first one here is, what is land documentation in Nigeria?
Okay, so land documentation is simply the process of putting your ownership in a document, and you can even take it further by now registering it with the government. So that's a further step. But in this topic, we'll be looking at land documentation again.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your explanation of what land documentation is. Now, second question we have here is, what is the importance of land documentation in Nigeria?
Wow.
Like in Nigeria in general, what is the importance of land documentation?
Thank you very much. I don't know if you have seen a situation where you are prospecting to a client and you're telling the client, okay, come and buy this land. Maybe the land is worth, let's say, 10 million naira. And you say, okay, there are other charges. Some people call it hidden charges.
Yes.
But then, as reliable realtors, we don't say hidden charges because we tell you what it is. They are not hidden anywhere, right? So what are those charges? One of them is documentation, survey, deed of assignment. Now, in that kind of situation, have you had any client that felt, no, I like the amount of the land, but this other documentation,
the price of the documentation.
somehow.
Yeah, that's one thing I think a lot of people don't understand. What some company does is they do all inclusive.
Yes.
It's different from when, okay, a company is stating to you that the price of the land is this and the price for documentation is this. But a lot of clients don't want to understand that. They feel like, okay, why would I not just buy it at the price of the land, everything all together?
Thank you very much. So when you buy a land, one of the importance of documentation is, number one, it helps you to claim ownership. So there is nothing like ownership without documentation. And sometimes I say that real estate is only an investment if you do your due diligence before you buy and you do your documentation after you buy. So that is what makes it an investment, because tomorrow you can now say, okay, this is my land and this is my document. You can also sell it. That's another importance, to it, because when people want to buy from you and they contact somebody like me that, oh, my client wants to buy from somebody, I will ask him, where are the documents? And the third thing is that it helps you to prove the history of ownership. So if there's no documentation, so say somebody sold it to you and then that person sold it to me, right? And I want to sell it to another person. If you don't have a documentation and I don't have, and you are saying you bought it from one person, maybe that's the only document you have. So there is no proof of ownership. There is a break in the ownership, history. So all of those things are things that makes documentation very, very important. So number one, it helps you to prove ownership. Number two, it helps you to be able to sell when you want to sell. And also it adds value to it, because somebody who has documents is not the same thing as another person who does not have documents. So that in a way also adds more value to it. And if you want to have another value, then you can now register with the government. That also helps you to increase the value of that particular property.
Thank you. I really appreciate the explaining. But you used the term somewhere in your explanation. You said due diligence. Do you mind enlightening what that means more?
That's a topic for a whole day, because due diligence is very wide, but simply is you trying to search and determine a number of things, like number one, ownership; number two, whether the land is under government acquisition or not; number three, whether the value is even the same thing as what you ought to even buy it for; number four, you can also use due diligence to be able to, sometimes compare what they are quoting to you as to what is in the land registry. So sometimes you may want to buy a land, and what is in land registry is maybe a land that is partly under government acquisition and partly free.
Wow.
There are some situations like that. So you need to go and take the coordinate of your land and then go and compare it to what you have at the land registry, so that you not buy partly true and partly false.
Yeah.
So due diligence is very wide, but that's just a summary of what it is.
Thank you very much. Thank you for explaining, at least shortening it. Okay, we have the third question here, and it is, what are the land documents in Nigeria and what are their meanings?
This is where we actually put the hammer on the nail, right? Now, the first thing is, when you now make up your mind to do documentation, please, I'll take it from the simplest to the more complex. Number one, we have receipts. So there's land receipts. Yes, it's not like, we say that it doesn't show ownership, it doesn't transfer ownership, but then it's still one of the documents, right? So when you buy land, usually when you buy from Omonile, they'll give you a receipt, right? Although we don't advise as experts that you should deal with Omonile directly. I have my reasons, because I had a client who even dealt directly with Omonile, but the stress and a lot of things that
is normal about it.
So for you not to go through a lot of stress, you can just go directly through a company, and of course credible companies, and you can always reach out to us for that. Now, when it comes to the receipt is just to show that you paid for the land. That is all. So tomorrow they can simply say that you paid for land, where is the land now? They can take you from where they showed you to another place. It happened almost every time. When my dad built his house, a number of people, they will say, okay, this is where we are selling to you. After like some months, they will move you to another place. But there's nothing you can do, because there is no transfer of ownership yet. Even if you go to court, what will the court do? Because there's nothing tying that sale to that particular point on Earth or in Lagos or in Nigeria, right? So the next thing you now want to do to upgrade is deed of assignment, which is what the law recognizes. So the law recognizes the deed of assignment as the instrument of transfer. So let me break it down. What is a deed? Because a lot of people talk about deed of assignment and they leave it there. Because these are just concepts that we need to understand, so that when you're asking your realtor or anybody for it, you know what you're asking for. A deed is simply a formal document. It's not like other contracts that you do. It's a formal contract, formal document. Now, when you now add assignment means transfer. So you can use assignment for any other thing. It doesn't have to be land. Assignment means I want to transfer something so I can transfer my shares to you. That's the assignment, right? So I can also transfer my rights to you. That's still assignment. So when you now say deed of assignment, that means a formal document transferring ownership in land from one person to another. And so the law recognizes that once there is a deed of assignment transferring title or ownership from Mr. A to Mr. B, as at that date, it becomes that, okay, Mr. B is now the new owner of the land. But if you dwell with receipts, no way. There's nothing like that. Then if you now want to go further, you can now do a survey plan, which is another land documentation. A survey plan will now show that, apart from the fact that we gave you this land, if you say plot A, road so bus stop, Lagos, it doesn't still show the particular place on earth where that your land is situated. So you need a survey plan that will now show the area. Every land has a number. Every place on earth has a number allocated to it. So they are called coordinates. The coordinate number, which is the four corner of the place, can now show the particular place on earth. So of course, if you want to sell it or you want to confirm at the land registry, it is the coordinates you use. So if you don't have a survey plan, sometimes you will now discover that your neighbor will now take part of your land and say it's his own. So what will you do? right? Although that doesn't really happen when it comes to estate land.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
Because of course there's a company in charge of all of these things.
Yes,
But if you
coordinate.
buy here, your neighbor buys, things like that happen, you know. So you need to, and I've seen things like that before where they'll just cut one land, they'll cut another one, then create another land in between. So in that kind of situation, what can you do? Do a survey plan and register it. So once that is registered in your name, of course you are cool. And then you can now take it further to now say, okay, let me have a C of O, right? So you want to register your title with the government, which is also very, very good. And of course, there are other documents like excision, you understand? Because sometimes excision can be a title and it can also come in documents because it comes in a gazette. So once it has been published, it becomes a gazette and becomes a land document so that you can now see lands that have been excised, like places like Ikota, to the community. There is a gazette for it. You can see that, okay, this part has been excised by the government and
To
all
the
of that.
family.
And if government decides to give you government allocation, so they will give you a document to show that, okay, this land has been allocated to you and this is the document evidencing all of these things. So also, if you now want to take it further, I'm taking it deeper now. You want to buy land from a family,
Yeah.
and then they are saying that dad is dead or their mom is dead, but the land belongs to their dad or mom. What will you ask them for? What you need to ask them for, okay, where is the probate, right? Because if their dad has written a will, there must be a probate from the government that has given them the authority to now deal with that land as an executor. So they can sell it, they can also lease it out. But some people just feel that is the
That's why it's the child.
no, just go ahead with the sale. No, they don't have authority yet to sell or to handle that transaction. So you need to look at that. And if the dad did not leave a will, you can ask them for a letter of administration, right? So letter of administration is when there is no will, you can obtain that from the government. So government now gives you the authority to deal with it. So that is another land document. And lastly, let me just round off with this. A judgment can also be a land document, right? Because sometimes you see that some families will fight, and later on they will win. So where is the
judgment that has been awarded to this?
And please take caution here. When they give you the judgment, you don't say, this is the judgment and carry it about. No, you need to go and verify. Go to the court and get the CTC of the judgment to be able to know that truly that judgment is not fake.
Yes,
it's a real one.
Yeah. I really appreciate this. I think this explanation has really been very helpful because I think it cleared some of my questions too. Thank you very much. Okay, I think the fourth question we have here is, what is the document for transfer of land ownership in Nigeria?
So simple.
I think you answered it already.
Deed of assignment. And don't look at receipts. A lot of people buy land and they just, I have a receipt. It's not sufficient. That's why Omonile will keep disturbing you and all of that. Or a real estate company, once you pay for the value of the land, just pay for the documentation.
So thank you for that. I think you explained that already, but at least it's good to know that it's the deed of assignment is what they need for transfer of ownership. Okay, now the fifth question here is, how do I get a certificate of occupancy?
Wow. So certificate of occupancy is a certificate that the government gives you to occupy a particular plot of land or expanse of land. So because a lot of people just say certificate of occupancy, what does it really mean? When it comes to Land Use Act, you don't own a land in perpetuity. That means there's nothing like eternal land, like you own it and then you are the owner for life. Forever, in fact, what the law gives you is what we call ownership for a period of time, right? So it's not like they give you, it's almost like you are a tenant. Because certificate of occupancy means that you are occupying the place. You are not necessarily the owner. The owner of the land is the government, but they have given it to you to occupy it for a particular period. So under the law, it is 99 years.
Yeah, I was about to ask what was the duration. Though I know the duration, I just want my glasses.
And you know, some people don't look at that duration. Yeah. Take for example, you want to buy a CFO. People just jump at CFO.
They don't know how many years is left. Yes. Because you might be buying a property that is left to just 5 years. And
out of the 90, the person has used 50. You don't want to
Wow.
buy the other 49 years. You need
49.
to be very, that's why you need to contact, a reliable real
Realtor.
estate expert that will now tell you, okay, how many years do we are, and then you cannot use that as a negotiating power,
Mm.
right? So when you are negotiating, you tell them, look at what I have left. So
No.
after 99 years, I don't even know what will happen.
Yeah,
You
that's true.
understand? So
That's true.
let's just beat it down. So instead of 50 million, I'll go for 40 million. I'll pay you 45. Or, you can use that as a name, because all of these things are negotiating power, right? So
Yeah.
how do you obtain it? The first thing is that you should contact your lawyer. Your lawyer will be able to file the application, but one of the most important thing is your deed of assignment, which transfer title from the person you bought from then to you, right? And with that, you can be able to process your CFO plus a number of other documents that your lawyer will require from you.
Thank you very much for that explaining. Okay, now we go to the last question on the list. We have, how do I know a fake land document? So how do I know if a land document is fake? How do I know?
Wow. Okay. Now, how do you know a fake land document? First of all, there are fake CFOs,
Yeah.
right? So you need to verify at the land registry to know whether that CFO exists or not. So there are clone CFOs. So you need to go to the land registry with the title number of the CFO, go and check whether they have a copy at the land registry. So you get a CTC of that before you can now proceed to buy. However, there are other documents, right, apart from CFO. So take for example, for a deed of assignment, you need to check the history of the land and some other documents like that, whether it's probate or any other document I've mentioned. The best place to check is the agency that issued it. So if it's probate, you go to the probate registry. If it's letter of administration, you go to the probate registry. If it's CFO, you go to land registry. If it's excision, land registry. If it's government allocation, land registry. If it's survey plan, you go to the surveyor general survey. So any agency that has issued all of these documents, you go and check whether they actually issued it or not. And from there you can be able to detect whether it's actually, a cyber cafe CFO
So,
that you got.
so thank you very much, Mr. Samuel.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate you stopping by to at least enlightening us on this land documentations and property documentations. I really
You're
appreciate.
always welcome.
I really appreciate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.